But my name is Josh. I'm a communications consultant. I'm a writer. I'm a web developer, a digital marketer. I'm a volunteer with the IAPP as well as One Earth Conservation. I first became involved with One Earth about 5 years ago after adopting my friend Spock right here on my shoulder from foster parrots, one of the biggest avian rescue sanctuary in the Northeast. And I read about the Parrot Conservation Corps held by One Earth Conservation in the Foster Parrots newsletter. I got really excited about what they were doing, and I've been honored to be helping them out ever since. My friend Spock here is a cherry-headed conure. He's almost 35 years old. He is unable to walk or perch due to an injury from a past life sometime before I met him. He is one of millions of parrots who have been failed by humans in captivity. So he'll be with us today as he is on my shoulder every day. My clients range from institutions of higher education to cybersecurity, startups, banks. I've been excited about this session for a while because I work in this industry of communication and messaging, and I really think it's one of the most powerful tools that we have to combat the parrot crisis. The way we talk about, the way we portray parrots in a digital world is so powerful, but also full of obstacles. So first, let's talk about what we already know, the power of parrots. We know that art and digital media are powerful, but parrots are too. Um, Social media has been a catalyst for political revolution and social movements around the world. And parrots are emotive and beautiful and highly engaging, and we see ourselves in them. And so it's no surprise that together there's something really special, but also something really harmful if we're not careful. Uh, when we promote them, oh, one of my friends is has something to say. But when we promote them, when we share or like something about that one a parrot on social media, we may unintentionally be contributing to the parrot crisis. So this is also true because there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about parrots on social media, in digital media. The, the pet industry has become very successful at convincing consumers that buying a bird is a way to support conservation, for example. They're also very good at glossing over the incompatibility of wild animals with captivity. Most consumers in the global north don't realize that parrots are not domesticated like cats or dogs, or that every time we purchase a parrot, the value of that animal trickles down to where they fly free. Very few understand that rescues are full or that the parrot crisis exists. So, we're gathered here to discuss how we can utilize the power of parrots and social media and digital media and art to address these perils and ultimately to protect parrots.
And I'm going to be introducing our panelists. The first one is Juan-Carlos. He's going to do a little introduction for himself, and then we'll move on to the other two. So Juan-Carlos, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, well, my name is Juan-Carlos Cantu. I am from Mexico. I have been working with the conservation of parrots for the last 30 years, mostly working on trying to stop illegal trade of parrots here in Mexico, but not only in Mexico, also internationally. And well, I have been doing lots of research on how illegal trade of parrots occurs in Mexico, and also working on changing the laws in Mexico to protect parrots. We have been successful in that. In Mexico, we have a total ban on trade of parrots since 2008. And well, I've continued to do this work along with many other NGOs and scientists here in Mexico, and also working alongside with the environmental enforcement authorities in Mexico.
Great. Thank you so much for being here today. And our next panelist is Jen. You may know her as Birdism on her social media, and she will be introducing herself and giving a short presentation. So, Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen. Have to describe myself. Oh, great. I've been doing illustrations since I was a kid. I went to school for graphic design. Been in the industry for like 20 years. Made my own little brand that people from all over the world seems to know. which is pretty cool. My mission in life is to inspire compassion for birds and by extension people, because there's a lot of back and forth. Like, we all are connected very, very tightly. So you get happy people, you get happy birds is my is how I perceive things now. I did rescue for 10 years as a hobby. I was on 2 sanctuaries for about 2 years. I've seen the horrors, I've seen the joys, and I've done fundraising for rescues and sanctuaries. Pretty good with that. I have a book. That's pretty cool. Let's see. I have an interest in sociology and psychology. Nothing major professional, but just an interest because I like to see, how I can best reach people. I specialize in special needs birds. A lot of people knew Cody. He was my little wingman. Meant the world to me. And I do that. I do all this for birds like him, the special guys that are usually discarded in some ways. Which I am happy to announce. I'm getting sidetracked. I apologize. I have ADHD. It's an artist thing. People are rather fond of special needs birds that I've come to realize, and that makes me happy. Anyways, okay, so influencing positive change for parrots through social media. This is more along my style and what I have seen work, at least for my community over the years. So, it takes all kinds to save lives, as I say, on social. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. So sometimes you have to know your audience. There's people who are more professional than I am. I'm more of the fun, positive type. So we're going to go into that. Why this matters. Millions of parrots live in captivity, as we have discussed, often without proper care. Rescues are at capacity. Social media shapes how people view parrots. Cute parrot content can spark impulse buying, and we want to prevent that. And I got my little illustration there. And in the background, you can kind of see, little foreboding of parrots in cages. They're not very happy. Digital outreach. I've done many years of physical outreach at adoption events, bird shows. I would go to bird shows, nothing more with information on bird care, because I figure you show people how to care for their birds properly. They're in a positive, compassionate way. Do I have any forms on me? They're more inclined to do good. Like they want to. I feel like people want to do better by birds if you just give them a little nudge. With every order for my little shop that I have, I do a bird care sheet. That's how I'm spreading the word of bird, even in my little business. Anywho, I'm on all the socials. Social media is kind of like flock calling. So we got a little guy here calling to his flock. Social media is the modern classroom. People may never read an article on parrot welfare, but they'll watch a 30-second reel. Billions of people scroll daily, huge opportunity to educate, shape perceptions, and inspire action. As I've mentioned, I like to be silly. The challenge is to reach hearts without closing minds. Finding balance is key. If we message too harsh, we're dismissed as extremists. Message too soft, people will ignore us. So, I got this little ring neck balancing on the banana balance. Anywho, what works? So I mentioned I like to look up like sociology and psychology, marketing. It's all kind of goes together, and learning how to best reach people and have like a positive back and forth. So one of like a quote that I turn to is, I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. So one of my techniques is like kind of planting seeds to get people to want to learn more. By sharing hopeful, constructive messages, we gently nudge people towards learning, connecting with the community, and building trust. Framing issues to spark self-reflection, gentle, positive messaging motivates change better than confrontational tactics. Emotional content travels farther than facts alone. And I have like a study that was based on like using guilt to spread a message. There's a lot of studies of how to best reach people, but too long didn't read. Summary: when people want to use guilt as an appeal, it may be better to use it implicitly to try to make other people feel they should take on this responsibility rather than say explicitly that they are responsible for what other people are suffering. So yeah, people can use guilt, but like go easy on it because it might backfire. And it actually kind of does work in environmental settings. If you read more into that study. Whoops, wrong button. Education in action. My little doodles trying to teach people, don't let them in the kitchen. Beware of Teflon. Beware of like if they're flighted, which I encourage, make their environment safe. So like check your sink, check anything they can fall into. That's what the bottom one's supposed to depict. Awareness, understanding, action, share tips for enrichment and proper care, highlight rescue stories and second chances, how an individual's action can make a difference, balance education with research and relatability. People want to know, see themselves in action, doing the best for birds. Why do I keep hitting the wrong button? All right, so I made a little comic that was educational. Connection through storytelling. People act when they feel connected. Utilize creativity to draw people in. Use humor and heart to make points. Don't underestimate the power of memes. If you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh. Otherwise, they'll kill you. That is kind of my style. Because the truth hurts. What's that Mary Poppins quote? Spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, sort of thing. So that's things to consider. Content ideas, infographics, comics, memes, tutorials, short videos before and after adoption, conservation news. You can do carousel posts, 5 easy ways to make your parrots happier. You can also do like conservation-based things. I've been trying to do more birding things so they can see, hey, look at these guys in the wild flying free. Look how great it is. And then they can like see that in their little buddies at home. Collab with rescues and other notable advocates for like fundraisers. That's one good way to get the word out. And shareable quotes. Mine I came up with that I've held on to. Saving one bird will not change the world, but it would change the world for that one bird. And on the right, you can see my homie Chicken Thoughts. She did a comic featuring Hilda, so that's some of the collab. The reality of Hilda. Hilda got a hold of my book, and it will happen again. They will chew on everything you love. Some silliness is be nice to birds. This is a threat. Scritch and chart, educational silliness, and then actual like valid information, dressed up, cute, easy to digest. Companion birds, a lifelong commitment. And this is the end of my slide. This is me doing outreach with Cody. Some of my rescues I've saved over the years. My little special needs guys. There's Chickadee. She was a blind little buddy. Georgie with this funny beak. Louis was my first rescue. The person taking care of him wasn't really taking care of him. So I was like, hey, let me help. And she's like, okay. So anyways, empowerment and hope. We got to hold on to that. Otherwise, we're going to suffer from compassion fatigue. We got to build community. If we're, divide and conquer? We don't want that. So community through compassion, treat others as you would like to be treated. Remember that everybody is on a journey. Just because they're not responsive to the message now doesn't mean they're not later once they have time to reflect. Cooperation over competition, again, working together, and build a kinder world for parrots and people together. Yay.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jen. That was amazing. So much information. We will cover some of that stuff and get more into it as this section moves forward. And then also, Jen, is that information available for other people? Can we have that maybe posted on our website or anything like that?
I'll put it on my blog so people can like acquire it. Yeah.
Okay, and her blog, what's your blog name if you want to?
Birdism.com.
Okay, you can put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
you
Yeah, just so people know. Great.
sure.
Okay, and then now we're going to move on to Melanie. You may know her as Can of Nutella as on her social media. She will also be presenting and introducing herself and have a short presentation. So Melanie.
Guys, so hopefully you can kind of see my screen up here, but I'm Melanie Canatella, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about my history and where I've kind of started and where I fit in the online community and the education online community. So we all start somewhere. I'm the owner of Fluff and Feathers Training. I'm a behavioralist and trainer. I work with all animal species, not just avians, but I do specialize in birds because they are my passion. I've been training professionally for over a decade now, working across the world with zoos, aquariums, wildlife rehabbers, rescues, and people who have companion animals. I have multiple degrees in fields like applied behavior analysis, nonprofit management, psychology, and fine art photography. I also have a few certifications. Those are some fancy acronyms. I sit on the board of multiple training organizations across the country, and we all focus on a modern and science-based approach to modifying behaviors. I have been caring for parrots for around 22 years now, and I have currently in my house 10 parrots. 9 are mine. 1 is a bird that's in from a rescue for training. And I do specialize in birds with disabilities who are older and birds who have behavioral concerns that need lifelong management, that need to grow their skills, and just aren't like a companion bird, which is really even something crazy to ponder if that's even a thing, right? But one that wouldn't do well in just the average person's home for care. I started my career working professionally with animals at a large parrot rescue for 6 years and also with a master falconer. And we did anything you could ever think to do with raptor type birds, we did with ours. It has since grown into educating the world about animal behavior, specifically parrots I'm most known for, and why you should think twice about getting one, as well as how to improve their welfare for the birds that are already here, because the birds that are here are trapped here. It's part of the crisis. I'm thankful to have been asked to speak here, and I hope to become a resource to everyone. I wanted to share where my journey kind of started all that time ago. I started with 2 rescued parakeets. Right up here in this corner were my first 2. I got another rescued parakeet soon after. And then I got my little Petco Sun Conure. I got some PetSmart parakeets, and I got another Petco Myers parrot. Each cage had maybe 2 toys in it. You can kind of see Maui's beautiful Petco cage back there. Maui and Noelle had snuggie huts that they would sleep in every night. All seed diets, no fresh food, dowel perches. This is even a plastic dowel perch in a very, very small Petco parakeet cage with one of those water bottles that are impossible to clean. I started here. And then I wanted to be a breeder. Hot take. When I was in 5th grade, I put in my yearbook I wanted to be an ornithologist. And then I really quickly realized that is a lot more science than it is working with birds. I wanted to work with birds in some capacity, and I didn't know how. So I said I wanted to breed. And then to gain experience and start networking, I worked at a parrot rescue to gain experience when I was 15 years old. And within the first week, my future goals quickly changed. I started to realize what it is like for parrots in our care. And I saw modern aviculture for what it was, and I couldn't bring more birds into this world. So I also learned about how birds mature in the wild, how macaws stay with their parents for 18 months and cockatoos at least 2.5 years. And we're taking babies from the nest box between 2 to 10 days old. Imagine that with dogs, right? We know 8 to 10 weeks, we're not to take the puppies from their mom. And we are going against that with all of parrot breeding today. I have yet to really find anyone who is following those natural weaning cycles. So this is where my experience and my views change very quickly. So I improved over time. This video is my bird room currently, and I think the cages are too small, even though they're full of walk-ins. But with experience, education, seeking out more information, network, and traveling, I've improved my skills over time. And down here is my dining room, which has become another large parrot jungle gym. So we all start somewhere, and none of us started out fully educated. And we all did things that we're not proud of, and we all had to learn. So remember how you learned best, who you learned the most from, why you learned so much for them, and why you trusted them as a resource and to help furthering your views and create global change in the ways that you feel is just.
You got on? Yeah. Right. You sure I didn't want? Oh.
Can we just make sure everyone is on mute, please? Oh, Melanie, was that? Sorry, that was the ending.
I accidentally muted her. I was trying to mute the person who was talking. Melanie, please unmute yourself.
Are we good now?
Sorry.
No problem. So I am very comfortable to say that I was not known to be nice on social media initially. And most of the time it was really not deliberate. But also I've seen too much of things that were very disturbing to want to be nice, and because it's urgent and it's serious. And I have no training in public relations. So I had to learn to be nicer on social media and choose specific wording while emphasizing the goals. I'm still not 100% nice all the time, but I'm okay with that. The best form of communication for change is to have people understand and relate to you. And that way they'll want to be you, right? That's what I found in my little corner of the internet. So the main takeaway is we all have room to grow. None of us know everything, and not everyone knows better. And it's better to leave with compassion and try to come from their perspective of, it took me so much time to learn how to care for birds in the way that I'm caring for them now, and I'm still learning. And that person is at a different phase in their journey, despite the education that's out there and what we feel like people should know. There is a lot of conflicting information. I talk to clients about it all the time. So some people just thought they were doing best. Not everyone will be receptive, and usually with giving unsolicited advice or jabs or anything online can definitely cause someone to not go with your cause but against it. Be the bigger voice to get your message across, as well as different countries and cultures have different perspectives and resources, which I learn a lot from when I work with my clients internationally. So thank you for allowing me to present here, and let's go ahead and get into the discussion.
Thank you so much, Melanie. I love that you brought all that up in terms of, a lot of people, I'm sure, went out and bought a bird. I have Jasper, my green cheek. I purchased him before I knew anything. And, you learn and you do better. And that's why we're all here. So I will get right into it with the three of you. So Jen, Melanie, and Juan-Carlos. We're going to start out by talking about how we can use art and social media to improve parrot welfare versus, sometimes I think when we use those mediums, we actually hurt parrots sometimes or harm them by showing them in a certain way. So what are the ways we can do it to actually help them?
I've tried, I have birds, they're rescues, but I don't post them to get attention, because I'm not like, look at me, but I'm there to make connections and reach out, and I see my followers as friends, and I treat them like friends. I'm like, hey, look, my little guy is so cute. Look at him, he's goofy. But I've started to put disclaimers. I recently did one where I had Jester all burritoed being cute, and it said 5 minutes early, she took a chunk out of my hand. So yeah, I don't want it to perpetuate the desire to have this little guy because they are adorable. So I try to mix the realities. It's like balance. Remember the whole thing about the banana of balance. So corny. So really cute, but here's the truth. Mix them together, and make it not as a promotion, but an opportunity to educate. That's the goal.
Juan-Carlos, did you have anything to add? I know you come from a very different perspective since you work in a country of origin with a primarily Spanish-speaking audience, right? And I know you have very different background than Jen and Melanie, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I come from Mexico. I work in Mexico, and in Mexico we have very different laws than we have in the U.S. or
Please
Canada.
share. Please share.
And s- well, since 2008, as I've said before, in Mexico, it is completely forbidden for anybody to trap and sell parrots. But not only that, it is forbidden to buy them. It is forbidden to breed them for commercial purposes. It is forbidden to possess them without a permit. And basically, it is a crime. If you possess a parrot in Mexico without a permit, you are committing a crime. So basically, you're a criminal. And that's very important to know because the perspective of how to work with people who are buying parrots in Mexico, it's completely different. Because in Mexico, we have 22 species of parrots and macaws, and most of them are being affected by illegal trade. That is, tens of thousands of parrots are being taken each year by poachers and trying to distribute and sell them to unsuspected consumers, and that is affecting the wild populations of these parrots. And most of the parrots in Mexico are endangered or threatened. So we have to work very differently from what I've heard that everybody's doing in the U.S. We have to be much more aggressive, basically. We do work most of the same things. I mean, creating all kinds of materials to reach people. We created posters, children's books, comic books, infographics, stickers, all kinds of materials to distribute all over Mexico. We have done that since 2009, alongside with the Environmental Enforcement Agency, and lots of NGOs are working with us, and also many scientists. But what we do here in Mexico, it's what it's called demand reduction campaigns. That is very targeted campaigns that are based on one species or another species. Sometimes they are general for all species, but a demand reduction campaign should be done specifically for one species. And when you do that, you need to understand. You need to do a little bit of a research to understand what's happening with that species. How is it being taken? How many? Who's taking them? And especially the consumers. Who are the consumers? Why are they buying that species? So that you can tailor the message towards that specific type of consumer. So since 2009, we have been basically doing campaigns targeting the consumers. Consumers are part of the illegal trade chain. They are the driving force of the illegal trade. That is, if there's no demand, there's no poaching. If nobody is willing to buy a parrot, then nobody is going to the rainforest and capture a parrot. So consumers are the problem, and consumers are the people you need to target to solve illegal trade. And we have done that in Mexico very successfully. Since 2009 that we started working, illegal trade in Mexico has decreased by 47%. And that means that tens of thousands of parrots are no longer being captured in Mexico. So it works. We have proved it in Mexico that it works. And sometimes we have to be, well, not nice at all with our messaging, because we're dealing with different types of people here, directly with traffickers, directly with consumers, and a lot of consumers that know that in Mexico it is illegal to buy a parrot, that know that parrots and macaws are endangered or threatened, and still they go out and buy a parrot or a
Can
macaw.
Juan Carlos, can you talk a little bit about how you target these people on, social media?
Well, the first thing that we did back in 2009 is to inform people that the law has changed. And so we had a poster depicting a family buying a parrot, and we were telling them, "You're breaking the law." And we were not saying the trafficker who's selling you the parrot is breaking the law. You, the consumer, you are breaking the law. Okay. And then we had another poster with a woman buying a parrot in different situation, and the caption said, "You're a trafficker." Not the guy selling you the parrot, you buying the parrot, you are a trafficker. And then we had another poster with a young person buying a parrot, and the caption said, "You are killing parrots." Not the trafficker. You, the consumer, you are killing parrots. So we were telling the people in Mexico that buying parrots was illegal, that you were becoming a trafficker, and that you were killing parrots by doing that. That's the way we started. But then that was a general demand reduction campaign. And then we started doing more specific demand reductions campaigns. And we did one for the yellow-naped parrot, and we did one for the yellow-headed parrot, and one for the military macaw. And one has to understand what is happening with each of these species. For example, for the military macaw, people in Mexico buy these parrots because it is a status symbol. So they think they're gonna be looked up to if they have a military macaw in their home, or they're gonna be very popular if they have a military macaw in their home. And so basically the campaign was targeting these people and telling them, "You're not going to be popular at all. You're going to be a delinquent. People could not care less about your military macaw. They want to do something else." And basically, one of the things is that the number of people basically that buy parrots and macaws in Mexico is incredibly small compared to the population that we have in Mexico. We have 125 million people. And so the number of people that buy parrots is in the thousands. I mean, it's very small. Still, it's enough to create a problem. So our campaigns not only target those who buy parrots, but what we really do want is for the message to go out to the people surrounding the people who buy the parrots, their family, their friends, their co-workers, their neighbors, so that they put pressure on the people who buy parrots, so that they shame the people who buy parrots. And that's very important, because if you have a person that buys a parrot, and the people that surround him don't say anything, They are enablers of this guy buying the parrots, of this guy breaking the law, of this this criminal. So people surrounding them are the most important component of our campaigns, because we know that for many of these of the people that are buying parrots, they know it's illegal and they don't care. They know that the species is endangered, they don't care, but they will care if the people around them start pressuring him or her. Uh, so that's the type of campaigns that we do.
I think that a lot of us forget, we're here for the parrots, and sometimes, we don't want to shame people or make them feel bad, but the birds are feeling bad, and we have to kind of keep that in mind. And sometimes you do have to take a different approach to this and make people feel bad, make them think in a whole different way.
Yeah, and so really quick, I'd like to just point out one thing. I love this, the fact that we have these very different perspectives here, right? Um, I really think that Juan-Carlos' perspective and the perspective of someone who works in a country of origin like Mexico, where birds fly free, illustrates so deeply and viscerally, to be honest, how far removed the global north is from understanding that these are wild animals, right? So many people in the global north don't understand that birds are not domesticated. They are wild animals, and that any bird who grows up or who is born into captivity or lives in captivity is a tragedy. It's 100% tragic that flighted animals must live in captivity, in cages, in human homes, right? And the way that Juan Carlos is talking about how people talk about like how he talks about birds in Mexico, to me sounds like the way people here might talk about big cats or exotic reptiles like snakes, right? Because people they do get them as a status symbol. They're not legal in all states in the US, for example, but people find ways around it and they take pride in this ability to navigate this murky, unethical, highly harmful wildlife trade in the US. And it's all for basically, like you said, status symbols, right? And so in the US, I don't think I think birds have just become much more close. People view birds much more closely the way they view dogs and cats than the way they do big cats or snakes. And again, that just says so much about the severity of the parrot crisis and how far down this hole we've gotten. So yeah, so thank you all for sharing all of that. I really appreciate everyone. Oh, actually, Melanie. Well, I'll actually go to you next, Melanie, because I'd love to hear because you're someone who works with captive birds on a daily basis, right? So, and maybe people who might be looking to buy a bird, or they're not sure if they should adopt a bird or whatever it might be. I'm sure you have conversations like that. So I'm curious how can you share about how you might apply the things that we've talked about, the lessons that we've learned today, the lessons that we learn as artists or creators to real life discussions about parrots, right? How can the way that we portray parrots in media apply to the way we talk about parrots in real life and with other people in our work as conservationists, in our work as rescue or sanctuary workers, in our work as veterinarians, or as just parrot guardians who want to do right by the animals that are in our homes?
Yeah, so I do deal with people who, or work with people who have just gotten birds or have had birds or thinking about birds. I am a resource to a lot of people when they need some sort of guidance around caring for parrots. And I have found with my career that at the end of the day, no matter how we're getting our messages across, there will still be people who will look at that and say, I want it. If you are a conservationist and you are putting up, parrots flying in the wild and how beautiful this is and how it should be, someone's going to see that flighted parrot and said, imagine if I could have that. I really would like that. If you will post about your bird. I've seen many people in comment sections of birds, especially Amazons, who are highly aroused and going after their caretakers. And usually they're saying words like "it's okay" and something like that, where we start to anthropomorphize the bird. And you'll see people in the comments of a bird who is showing behaviors that are very dangerous and very concerning. Oh, they're so feisty. How cute. Heart emoji. And you're just sitting there like, oh, no, so no matter how we present and post on social media, how careful we are, at the end of the day, there will always be someone that wants that. And so the one thing that really I focus on is the education side of things, because at the end of the day, someone's going to look at my birds, and they're going to be like, I love that, I want that. But in the comments, if I could put a part about their care or a part about them in the wild, their numbers or anything education forward, maybe someone will read that and do a double take. That's what we're really trying, at least me and my little corner of the internet is, and the people that I interact with, is I'm trying to have people think twice. And I work with people who get birds from breeders or as babies, and they come to me, they have this little one, and they quickly realize I'm in over my head, or I don't know what I'm doing, or this isn't what I expected. And I get a lot of those emails every single day, and that's when I become a resource to help educate them. And that one person then learns, unfortunately, the hard way to save more from ending up in that place. So it's really, no matter where we are in the world, I feel like we're trying to find that perfect solution, and there will always be imperfect sides to every perfect solution that we find. So just try to focus on being the louder voice, being the loudest voice in your messaging, and using messaging that you find effective in your little corner of influence.
Thanks. I've been witness to screenshots you've shared with me of people who maybe don't like what you have to say about whether someone, is a home is appropriate for a bird or whatnot. Do you have anything you want to share along those lines of lessons learned, how you relate to people like in real life in your work, maybe not necessarily on Instagram or whatever?
Yeah, it's tough because, you try to be compassionate with the people and have patience and you try to teach them. And I've learned that no matter what you try to do, people usually are going to end up doing what they want. Sometimes you can get through to them. It really is a person by person thing, and you don't know what's going on in their lives. And sometimes they just don't want to hear it. So I've kind of just learned to not take it personally. I'm trying my best. I ultimately do what's best for the birds. I will never put them in a situation where I know they'll be harmed or not have a happy life. And I don't care if I piss people off or if they get mad and, whatever they want to say about me. So, really it comes down to, for me, always what's best for the bird, and just having patience and trying to be as clear as I can. I will always say the same message. Like I think Jen said, planting the little seeds. Hopefully something sprouts there. If not, unfortunately, some people do end up saying, I'm going to go to a breeder or a pet store. But, as I said, we just have to do the best we can and keep saying the same message and ultimately keep protecting the birds. So.
Yeah, and this actually brings me back again to cultural differences and how different people engage with parrots, and how we think about parrots, right? And so I think this note, what you guys, I think I've kind of heard you guys collectively say is from an American perspective, you deal with people. I think it's fair to say we have a deeply selfish outlook on the world, right? The people, Americans specifically, and other people in the global north as well, but really Americans, we have this way of thinking about animals, eh, the environment, nature, as something that's ours to dominate, something that's ours to extract from. And I think it's a really deeply seated belief that it's our God-given right to do what we want. And if that means I want to buy a bird, that's my right. Right. And I think that that's something that right now, industry groups, we're seeing them say that as legislation is mounting across the country to hopefully, ban the sale of birds in pet stores, for example. We've seen industry groups now come out and say that, like, protect your right to choose, protect your right to choose to buy a bird from a breeder, right? And so I wouldn't call that misinformation, right? But I do think it's something that it's a way of thinking that we have to be aware of when we're creating our marketing collateral, when we talk to people about parrots, about because that's the perspective that they're coming from, that it's their right to buy or own or breed a bird. Yeah, someone just put in the right. So, and even if it's someone put this in the chat, it's a lot like the Second Amendment. It can be, it harms people. It harms, except it harms parrots. But people in many Americans still hold these rights very deeply. I just wanted to say one question now for everyone is um, how do we talk about combating misinformation and misunderstandings about parrots, whether it's in the wild or captivity? Any strategies, observations, lessons, anything you want to share? For me, one of my kind of the way my favorite, but my go-to thing that I always like to talk about is this notion that we can contribute to conservation efforts by breeding parrots, which is not true at all, but the pet industry uses that talking point a lot, and it's really, really taken fire. So a lot of times people really do believe that when they buy a bird, they're doing something selfless, right? When it's very much the complete opposite. Or breed a bird. People believe that by breeding birds into captivity, they're helping with conservation. And it doesn't, and it is what it is. It's doesn't they might even show that they care about parrots broadly, but they're sadly misinformed, right? So does anyone have any thoughts on that and how we can tackle these together as a community of people who care about parrots?
Is there any studies on it that proves it? Because yeah, you can breed a bird, but if their genetics are a hot mess because mutations, bad husbandry, you ain't helping anything.
Juan-Carlos, do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, well, basically, when I talk about demand reduction campaigns, it's not something that I just invented. It is something that uh, was developed over the years. And we started doing it in Mexico before it became fashionable internationally. It is something that United Nations uh, adopted a resolution in 2015 asking all countries to do demand reduction campaigns on all types of wild species. Also, CITES, the Convention on International Trade, did a resolution asking parties to do demand reduction campaigns in 2017 against the illegal trade. And the thing about doing a demand reduction campaign is that you have to have very clear messaging. So you're not all over asking or saying this and that or whatever. You have to have very clear messaging, very short messages, and you have to present them in a way that you basically flood with your messages, the social media or wherever you're working with, and to be able to do that, for example, in Facebook, it's very simple because you can pay Facebook to publicize your infographics, and they can reach millions and millions and millions of people. And if you do that constantly, message infographic after infographic after infographic, you start you're able to reach enough number of people that your messages overcome the messages of the other side. And you have to work together with a lot of people so that you use the same messages. You have to coordinate the messaging with a lot of NGOs, a lot of organizations, a lot of scientists, and all of you, you need to provide the same exact message. And that way you can make sure that your message is the one that people are receiving. And that's the way that we have done it here in Mexico. And as I said, it's working, and it's working very well.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I will also share, I come from a messaging and public relations perspective, right? So I also am a big fan, if you will, of kind of like protecting what I say from misinformation. So to me, whenever I like, we get a lot of people who say, when it comes again to this idea of I should be able to do whatever I want, buy whatever I want. How or people will often respond to our posts on social media like, are you trying to ban bird ownership? Are you going to come take my birds from my house? Are you going to tell me I can't do this? And we're not saying any of that. What we're saying is to just be mindful of of the decisions that you make. And specifically, I always use the hashtag adopt don't shop for that reason, because even I believe that by using the phrase adopt don't shop, I'm going to save every parrot in the world. I don't. But I do believe that it can help make our aims clear, that we're saying in the global north specifically, there are millions of birds out there in need of homes. And we want them to have homes, and we want you to, and we don't plan to outlaw their existence. But we also firmly believe that birds don't belong in cages, and that we envision a world where they no longer live in cages. Yeah, so that's kind of my guiding star. I always like to share. To answer your question, Birdism, about one thing I'll say is when people do ask that question, or they say, but by adopting or by buying a bird or breeding a bird, I'm assisting conservation. I always say, if that were true, then birds would no longer be endangered. Breeding is out of control in the global north. Millions of parrots are brought into the country every year and born into captivity, and there are still disappearing from the wild. So, and this has been going on for decades, and it's only gotten worse in the wild. So that's something I always like to drive home.
And there's
Yeah, and
also other
one of the things
countries.
that, if I may say something here, when we do our campaigns, we not only coordinate the messages, but we also coordinate the answers to possible questions. So we make a list of all the possible questions that people usually ask, or comments that people present, and we write down what the answer should be to any possible question, so that everybody is coordinated and is answering exactly the same thing. And that's very important. Not only giving the correct message, but giving the correct answer, the one that's appropriate for different types of questions. And if everybody does that, again, you flood social media with your correct answer to those questions.
Thank you, Juan-Carlos. So I do see a good question here. And this is something that is, I think anyone who works in rescue or conservation or anything has parrots probably can speak to this. How do you learn to manage the overwhelming cruelty and neglect that you see online from people who don't really care, having to combat people when you correct misinformation, but they get defensive about it? Any thoughts there that people want to share?
Yeah, so I ran into this a lot in my social media career. And just like I talked about in my intro, unsolicited advice can get you in a variety of different outcomes where some people aren't looking for advice. And when you do give advice, no matter how true it is, they're already on the defensive and is not going to be interested in your perspective. So with an education background, that's what I used to do a lot. I'd sit on social media, I'd educate, be like, hey, like snuggie huts can cause crop infections and like increase reproductive related behaviors and safety dangers. Probably best that you can like look into this and maybe discontinue it. And this is my bird's bed and my bird needs to sleep here every night and blah, 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 blah. And it never brought change. And so then I'm frustrated, they're frustrated, they're less open to the perspective. And I feel like I'm up against a losing battle. So that's when I like to focus my messaging on how to get the education out there and how to get it out there as much as possible. So I'm going to focus on a specific, topic of welfare or behavior or whatever. And I'm really going to post as much as I can about it so it reaches more people. And maybe there is a level of social pressure like what Juan-Carlos uses a lot in his messaging, where there's more social pressure, where people will comment more and more on their stuff because more people understand that level of education.
I know you got to choose your battles. Back to the whole planting seeds thing. You throw seed on dead soil, you ain't gonna get nothing. And whenever I see when someone was disagreeing with me on something I'm very sure about, I would turning into an educational graphic on my page. It's like, okay, you think that way? Well, guess what? I'm gonna do a post, and everybody can comment on it and kind of validate the post and hope that person at some point sees it. It's a little bit petty, but it's like, you know, it inspired me. I turned tragic into magic. It's tragic that this person's being a dummy. So the magic is I'm gonna get inspired by that. Instead of getting angry and sassy, I'm gonna get creative and educate. So I use the bad vibes as inspiration for good vibes.
Thank you. So we're right about the end, and actually, there's a couple of questions in here that are kind of perfect for just last questions. Is one is Juan-Carlos. People want to know if you have a website or a social media handle or a repository of your graphics or anywhere people can go to see your materials and follow you more. And Jen, someone asked how people would go about reposting and or offering credit, of course, to you because they like your material so much. They've hesitated to DM you for so long, so they're just going to throw it out there right now while they have you.
Oh, yeah. If it's educational stuff, have at it, share the crap out of it, and just tag me. Just say, with permission from @birdism. Because, yeah, the educational stuff I post, especially, is meant to be shared. Go crazy with it. If you want to translate it into other things, even better. I was mentioning before, like I think South Korea is getting into like the whole parrot scene, and it's like, oh no, like they might already, be into it, but as status, a lot of status, as you were all talking about. Even I've noticed even in rescues, someone's like, "Oh, I want that black paw macaw. They're giving them up, blah 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 blah," and like so like adamant about it to have this black paw macaw, and it's like you're kind of perpetuating this a little bit, this kind of consumerism, looking at animals as luxuries and products. Y'all need to calm that down a little.
Juan
Yeah.
Carlos, did you have anything people
Yeah,
can avoid?
well, you can see not all of it, some of it in our webpage of my organization, Tegelis. Also, we manage 5 different Facebook pages. We don't really do Instagram or TikTok or any other of the other social media because in Mexico, by far, Facebook is the most important platform. Tens of millions of Mexicans are on Facebook, so that's the way we use to reach people. And I just want to comment something. What we use illustrations basically. The parrots behind me are illustrations, and we very rarely use photographs of parrots, and we have found out throughout the years that when we use illustrations, we use a lot of caricatures of situations, And if you use an incredibly colorful infographic or poster, people are going to look at it. When you use a caricature, people think you're going to say, this is something funny, and I'm going to read it. But if it's incredibly colorful, when people are looking at their cell phones, they'll stop and read it. So that's one of the things that really works for us here in Mexico, and we know that in Latin America it also works as well. I don't know if in the U.S. it would be the same, but when you're doing or thinking of doing an infographic or a poster, use very bright colors. Use caricatures, and that's going to work.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone here. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I had one thing to say. I just wanted to address one of the questions very quickly. In terms of it is a little bit confusing when we're saying we don't want people to own parrots, but we are trying to empty the rescues and adopt these birds out. So something, first of all, I think all the rescues here would love to keep every bird and not adopt them out, but we just wouldn't be able to help any other birds. So something we can all do is instead of calling these birds pets, we can say we're providing sanctuary for them. So I'm not like giving these people, this pair of birds as a pet. I'm letting them have the, honor of taking care of these birds and providing a home and sanctuary for them while they're here. So if that's some language we can all adopt, it would be very helpful.
Yeah, and that really illustrates so much of what we're doing today, right? This is so difficult to talk about. There's so many layers to it. It's multicultural, it's emotional. People have investments in this, people work in this industry. It's an industry, right? So there's a lot of, it's very difficult to talk about this. And it's difficult to enact change for these reasons. So, and thank you for our panelists for being part of this.